Now, I know what you guys are thinking. I do. I get off parole. I relapse on pot. You never hear from me again. No, it's not like that. The reality is I could smoke weed when I was on parole. And I did for most of it. But when I started getting kind of out of control on drugs, after Paul had passed away, I just needed some time to be pure. I did Wellbutrin during that period, but getting off Suboxone was like really, really helpful to get in touch with my feelings that had been numbed for so long. Because, drugs and alcohol act as a spiritual buffer. And I don't mean spiritual in the, Noah's Ark, sense, or Moses cloudy stuff. And if that's what you believe, that's awesome. God bless you guys. I don't ever want people to think that I'm talking shit on Christianity or Catholicism or any sort of organized religion. But it's just my concept of a higher power is just a personal concept of a higher power. And to get more in touch with the universe around me, if that's a more palpable way of describing it, I decided to get off weed. I was like, I'm kicking this shit. Lock me in the room. Don't let me out. I just one more hit, babe. One more. No, it wasn't anything like that. I just stopped, and I was, and I'm gearing up to do ayahuasca, but I have to be off Suboxone to do that, and I have to be off weed. So I just kind of have been, on like a little weed trip right now, editing June Gloom. And it's really cool though, where marijuana's at. So like the other day I just called and I could get, I got this is a half ounce of Chem Guave, indica sativa hybrid. You can just call and it's like ordering a pizza. And, I have some sponsorships with, weed dispensaries in LA. I do stuff for them. Maybe write some testimonials, shit like that. And so I get, this was $75 for a half ounce, and right now I get ounces of this stuff for like $100, and this is like top shelf. This is like top fucking shelf weed. I'm gonna smoke some right now. Just need my fix. Nothing major. Nothing major here, guys. And I mean, this bud is like fantastic. When I called the delivery service, I'm like, look, man, I'm a tripper. I am a tripper. I won't do the voice. I'm a tripper. So, I don't like sativas because they tend to get me in my head, And I'll start thinking like, damn, I used to be buff with a small dick. Now I'm just fat with a small dick, corny as fuck, and I'll start tripping on stuff. Like, really, I get introspective and think about all the bad stuff that I've done in my life. I talked about that in Wasting Talent. Which incidentally, but whoa, hold on, let me show you this weed. This weed is really something, and this is a private video. This is Florida3, so it's not going to be on YouTube where people can be like, "Whoa, homeboy, straight up." Bass head because you smoke pot. No. It's not true. Pot is not the antithesis of recovery. In fact, I think it helps, but I don't know if you can really see that. But that herb is just, oh my god, it's the best. I asked for something that was more like body high oriented. He's like, this stuff, no head high at all. I'm like, come on, man. You can sell that to the less experienced marijuana users, but not me, bud. Not me. I am a drug connoisseur. I smoked it, and guess what? No head high at all. It's just like a very floaty body high, which leads me to believe I'm probably smoking CBD buds sprayed in Raid or something. But you know what? I like it. And $75 for a half, cool. And then with my discount, now I get the ounce for $100 delivered. It's amazing. That's a half, but you know what I'm saying. So, incidentally, about Wasting Talent, I'm trying to launch the Narcan initiative. It's expensive. It's cost like $500 or $600 just to sign with the Secretary of State for the for the 501c or whatever, which is the tax exempt filing or the tax exempt status that you get from a nonprofit corporation, which I tried to do with my nonprofit, the Prodigy Foundation for Prison Reform, but it imploded because I went to prison and nobody maintained it for me. This time, I want to do the Paul Project. I want to get Narcan to everybody in the country, but raising the money for it is an issue. I did a raffle with Sinister a couple weeks ago. We made like $1,100. Actually, I don't even know what YouTube takes, but they take like 30% or something crazy like that. So it's much less than that. And, just shipping a painting, we had help with shipping, but if you were just going to ship it by itself, it'd be like $300 for next day to Tedford. So, there's a lot of overhead involved. And when we did the raffle, we were within the AdSense pay cycle where we don't get paid for it till April 21st. So what I think I'm going to do now is keep my revenue from Patreon, keep it from YouTube, and keep, I already donate the paperback revenue, but I need something for myself. So I'm going to donate the Kindle revenue, the Kindle version of my book. If you don't have a Kindle, you can download a Kindle app on your iOS or Android, whatever you have, and you can read my book. I'm going to change the price to $1. The book's celebrating its 5-year anniversary next month in April, and I think April 1st, I'll start selling the book for an entire month for $1 for the Kindle version. Donate every cent of it to my Narcan initiative, and I'm also going to put up the album on iTunes, donate every cent of that to Narcan and making it more accessible, especially in a time of a pandemic, because now the hospitals are overcapacitated, they're bloated, logistically they're hindered from being able to help. It's like, oh man, look, Steven Spielberg just came in. Let's give him a respirator. Oh, there's that junkie that's always coming in here to get his abscess drains. We're cool on that, homie. We're cool. Go home. When you're like, you blew and OD'd, and fuck that. If there's ever a time that Narcan is going to be more effective, it's going to be a time where the fucking medical system is collapsing around us. So it's something I really want to do. I think we're going to do another raffle for Sinister and do 5 paintings. Stuff like this. I'm not going to give away these because these are gifts to me, but we'll do some cool stuff. And I also got butthole shots. $8 on PayPal. What's up? So anyway, 7 minutes. I know. This is what you get, man. I paid for HBO and you're treating me like AMC. What's that? What's like just NBC? I paid for HBO, but now I'm getting the NBC treatment. Fuck you, Leone. Fuck you, you sketch. And I knew what I was doing was wrong. I did it anyway. I'm a piece of shit. So what? No, but really, if you guys want to help me, I think we'll do the raffle on a GoFundMe because we get that immediately. And I'll post everything that we're doing. I'll make it super transparent because someone on YouTube was already like, dude, you're pocketing the money. It's like, no, I'm not. I actually, I would love to show people like what my bank statements look like and how much money I actually do donate. It's what I say. Even though I'm a piece of shit and my words poo-poo, I am just trying to launder my sins by helping other people. What a piece of shit I am. Oh, dude, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay, let's get into Florida. So last time I was in this, I was in a closet, and it was like this spot where, I was at this girl's house in the Mesa. For some reason, I've slept alone in this closet, and it was one of those closets that had like the, it had like the little. How do you describe that? It's like little rows that go down so you can kind of look out. But I opened the door because I was hearing essays talking. It was like essays gone wild. It's like, yeah, fucking take off your pants. What's up, homegirl? Oh, damn, you're a fucking gavacha. Oh, fucking femie. Oh, look at that panocha. Oh, that shit's fucking banging, homegirl. Oh, pero, hey, damn, baby Ralphie. You got a small dick, dog. Hey, shut up, fool. Why you looking at my dick when there's a naked white girl? Because I'm a fucking gay fucking paisa. I'd rather be a gay paisa than a gay paisa. Shit like that. So I was like, what the fuck? Because, look, before that, she never had Southsiders. Now, remember, I'm on the run right now. There's skinheads after me. NLR. Nazi lowriders. I live in a small beach town. I'm like this little 18-year-old fucking, the before picture for Proactive. I am not a threat to anybody with my Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas tattoo. And I'm scared. And this is the one spot where I have I found shelter. I found refuge in, this trust fund tweaker slut's house. And now there's gangbangers. Like, damn, look at her butthole, dog. That shit looks like a tamale. Hey, would anyone care if I stuck my middle finger in my ass? Oh, no, just kidding, fool. That's disgusting. Oh, yeah, hit this glass dick. Oh, yeah, suck it, dog. And I'm watching this. Now, quite honestly, it turns into a gangbang. A genre that I've dabbled in on Pornhub. Usually when I'm on some sort of stimulant or something, or my ex-whore wife was like, that shit, hot. Look at that gangbang. Bomb, baby, bomb. But I've never seen one in person. And let me tell you, it is violent. Especially with like a bunch of uncircumcised Southsiders. They're like, yeah, oh, fuck yeah. And they're like giving each other high fives. It was really like scary. I thought I was watching some like feminist propaganda film or something. It was gnarly. And so I kind of just like hide in there. I mean, what am I going to do? Pop my head up and be like, oh, hey guys, I'm Leone. I'm just a white boy. Carry on. Yeah, right. These dudes would probably, who knows what they would do to me. All the weird stuff I've been through, never had a group of naked Southsiders be mad at me. And I wasn't willing to test it right there and then either. So I kind of just stayed and watched. I didn't beat off. It'll probably be in the comments. Did you jerk off? I didn't. I was actually scared, I was like, holy shit. And I was dope sick. Now, the problem is I was strung out. This girl was paying for my habit. So I forget who was it. Was it Sam saying that guys used to take advantage of her? And look, Sam, I'm really like sorry that happened to you. I used to be one of those guys. It had nothing to do with the girls I was taking advantage of. It had to do with the fact that I didn't want to be dope sick and I didn't want to be cold on the street. And yes, in retrospect, total scumbag move of on my part. That's totally why I was at this girl's house. Now, she was paying for my habit and my pants were outside of this closet. So I woke up shivering, chills, dope sick, in the fucking Speedy Gonzalez gangbang assembly line is just happening in her room. And look, you want to talk about gory? This was the hostel of gangbangs. It was like, oh, fuck yeah, pero. Oh, watch me nut on this bitch's cheek, homie. Oh, yeah, dog. I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. Call me old-fashioned, but I was always like a one-on-one type of guy. Well, at least when it come to like my friends, I'm not gonna share girls with my homeboys. That's weird to me. But I'm hypocritical because I'll engage in the girl ones, but not the guy ones. So I'm kind of just watching in horror, and I'm sick. And if I beat off, I'd probably come in 2 seconds. You like that elaborate story I made about why I didn't jerk off? Let's be honest, I was just dope sick. So this goes on for, you know how meth sex goes on. It goes on for, God knows who long, 2 hours, which is absolutely torturous because I'm watching my, I'm very conscientious of my breaths. I don't want to be exposed as the voyeuristic white boy in the closet, this emaciated junkie that's just like, oh, I didn't see nothing. I have like, whiteheads in my eyelashes and shit. What? So I just kind of waited for it to be done. Now she got, what's the word for it? A bukkake? Where it's just I don't know, a collage of different semen splattered on one face. Yeah, I've never watched shit like that on Pornhub. Now, well, let's be honest. Let me take a little second to explain something about me and porn. Now, my absolute go-to is ass-licking lesbian porn. I've said it before, but it's not a joke. Then brocha, of course. But what I tend to do is, like, I don't delete my history. So, Pornhub's just like any other site. It's like an algorithm. And it starts figuring out what you're into. It gets really weird. Like, sometimes you'll see am porn and it has, like, music you like in the background. You ever notice how they do that? They put, like, a Red Hot Chili Peppers song in the background or, like, Eminem or something. Like, shit you have on your Spotify. But they play this music to give some sort of faux credibility to the am porn. Like, we don't know. Oh, really? You can't just play a song and use like a shittier camera, but you're not. Wait a second, I saw you in professional porn. Oh, it doesn't really matter. It's an illusion. But what my point is sometimes I go down the rabbit hole, and it's not just my tastes. It's the taste of the country. And man, there's some weird shit going on. Have you guys noticed that? I mean, there's some weird, like, subgenres of porn, like, stepsister fucking daddy for Girl Scout allowance money. And I'm just like, click on it. I'm like, I don't even like this. This is whack. I don't know why I went on. Oh yeah, the bukkake. So that's a real thing, right? So, but I saw this in person. It was fucking gross. I mean, all jokes aside, it was just like, whoa, you know. And I felt bad for her. Not that I was like some, you know, vigilant advocate for women's rights, and you know, hey, hold on, homeboys, you guys are straight up objectifying that bitch. Not cool, guys. Not cool. I'm gonna have to report this shit. Yeah, I'm not gonna allow this to go down. Hold on, I'm looking for gum. But after it finished, you know, then they all went into the kitchen. You know, it's like, that's how tweakers are. Let's all smoke meth in the bedroom. Oh, okay, let's move to the kitchen, and we'll all smoke meth in the kitchen now. And it's, you know, it's the same thing. Meth, sex. Oh, couple windows getting peeked out of here and there. Some blinds moving to the side. But, you know, meth, tweakers, boring lifestyle. Not saying heroin addicts are much better, but, you know, it's like, it's very boring when you're around that stuff all the time. So eventually, after they go in the kitchen, this is like 3 hours now, and I'm just like dope sick hiding in this closet. Eventually, they leave. And I go out there, and I'm like, she's like in a bathrobe, drinking coffee, reading the New York Times. I'm like, hey, are you okay? And she's like, oh, hey, you're up? I'm like, oh, yeah, I slept through the whole gangbang thing. Don't even trip. How you doing? And she's like, I'm good. I'm like, have you showered? She's like, no. I'm like, phew. Red flag. I was like, oh, okay, well, who are those guys, dudes? For real. And she's like, you know, it's just my drug dealer and his homies. You know, they're cool. His homeboys, they're from Lompoc. The town from the prison that I went to, which is like Lompoc. The acronym that people always say Lompoc stands for is lots of mean people on crystal, or lots of mean people on crank, because it's one of those small, desolate prison towns that's fueled by prison and crystal meth. Usually not the most idyllic, not the paradisical vacation spot. That's not where you want to go. You want to go to Maui. You don't want to go smoke meth in a barn in Lompoc, you know? So I'm like, are they coming back? And she's like, yeah. I forget what the guy's name was. Fuck. It was, I mean, you know, it was one of those funny Southsider names. Like, she's like, no, she didn't say that. Yeah, Papa Smurf, he has a temper, you know? Like, I don't know. He might get mad because you're, you know, just a skinny white boy. Like, what are you doing here? I'm like, is that your boyfriend? She's like, no, he's my, you know, drug dealer. But I'm like, so you just fuck him for meth? Yeah, him and his homeboys. Like, matter of fact. Like, yeah, I don't buy foods with GMO. You know, it's the same. I was like, what the fuck? So, you know, you got to understand what the implications of this were. Now, this place that I'm living, this sanctuary, has been completely polluted because there's weird hypersexual gang fuck activity going on in the literal and figurative sense of the word. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man, I can't stay here. But where can I go? And then if I do stay there, it's like, I've never really been one to, you know, be conscientious or even paranoid about STD. I'm not one of those guys. I got a lot of friends that are. Like, they go to really paranoid Disneyland type stuff. They go to the bar, they pick up some chick, they fuck her, no condom. Dude, I fucked this chick. I'm almost positive I have AIDS. I'm like, why? Headaches, homeboy. I'm getting headaches out of nowhere. And you look up HIV symptoms and like every symptom you can ever think of, you know, when the conversion part of it, when the virus first enters your bloodstream, you know, it like replicates itself. So you get all sorts of weird symptoms from it. I've read a lot about it because that is one, you know, remember, I thought Diablo gave me that in prison. I thought for sure I had it. And it's like, well, it can stay dormant for 9 years. So I got really paranoid about it. I looked at it, but like I have so many friends that sleep with women without condoms on and then they want to trip on it. I've never been that way about women. Except the bukkake slut. And it's the first time in my life where I was like, I don't know. I don't think, because I think it's because I saw it. You know, we don't always see what our partner's previous sex life was like. You know, like my wife and I, we always call each other dumb little. Our inside joke is we call each other dumb drunk sluts before we met. Now we're reformed. And that's pretty much how, like, the beginning of our relationship, we were dumb drunk sluts, and we just, you know, we've been getting along really well lately. We meet every day, like, at 3 o'clock on my stairwell, and she just, like, bends over, and we have sex, and it's really weird. We don't really say anything. It's just kind of like, same bat time, same bat channel, like, let's meet at 3 o'clock by the stairwell every day. It's just like an unspoken tradition, you know, and we just, right before this, we did this, you know, we fucked on the stairwell. So, and sex is so important for a relationship. It is for me, at least. I mean, you know, I don't know. Without it, it's just one of the pillars that if you don't have that good sexual connection with somebody, then I just don't think a relationship is sustainable. Not a happy one, anyway. So, what the fuck's the point of this rant? So, you know, I was in a weird position because I couldn't sleep with her anymore. And that's really like why I was allowed to stay there. And, well, I mean, I could, but I didn't want to, is what I'm trying to say. And furthermore, with Southsiders, you know what comes with Southsiders? NLR, skinheads, sketchy people, because sketchy people know sketchy people. That's the drug world. You know, skinheads are white gang members. NLR, which I guess can be argued that it's not a skinhead gang directly. I've heard that. You're an idiot. Those aren't skinheads. No, they just have swastikas in their fucking tattoo work. I guess they're not skinheads. So, no, bro, you don't understand. They're sophisticated. Okay. All right. Okay. I've heard people say that. Dude, and they're not even racist, bro. That's where you got things twisted. Skinheads are just proud of their race, bro. That's it. I'm like, I don't know about that, man. They have tattoos of Adolf Hitler. What the fuck? What are you talking about? Yeah, but anyway. So I'd tell her that I'm going to leave for a while, and that the only way that I'll come back is if we make it seem like I'm renting a room from her, you know, so that there's no, like, I don't want these, like, group of horny Southsiders to think that, you know, she's sleeping with me. I mean, there's nothing worse than a jealous gang member, let me tell you. So I leave. Now, I really have nowhere to go at this point. And remember, I had a drug dealer named Pablo that I lived with, and he used to be a pro skater, and now he was a drug dealer. He sold meth primarily, but he also sold heroin. And that's where I was going the day that I had stabbed Ian. I was picking up rigs for Pablo, so I could always go back there, you know. But again, it's like, it was common knowledge that that's where I was staying. So I called my parents, and I didn't talk to them for a long time. And, you know, I pretty much begged to come home. I told them I was in a bad situation. Now, at the time, I don't know if I mentioned this, I was on drug court. I had gotten a battery, and I blamed it on addiction. I was like, I was just so high, knocked that fool out. It was either a battery or it might have been a domestic. I don't remember. I was on, and look, I never hit the girl. It was just a bullshit. I don't know if we ever went into that, but it was a bullshit case. But I was on probation for one of the two. I don't remember. And whatever it was, I always blame drugs. Because it is everything I've ever done, I was on drugs, you know, and probably I never would be arrested if I wasn't. And even on the domestic, you know, I was fighting with my girlfriend who was pregnant at the time, and she was pregnant, and I literally tackled her to get the crack out of her pocket. And I had just gotten in a fight with, like, some guy that saw me chasing her down the street. Some surfer guy's like, "Whoa, brother, hold up. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, get your hands off of me. And he wouldn't, so I punched him, and then he called the cops. And by the time the cops showed up, I was on top of her, going through her pockets, trying to get this crack tube. Then I get arrested with the crack tube. So not only do I get arrested for domestic, and they're like, has he ever hit you? And she's like, he hits me all the time. I'm like, I've never hit this girl. What the fuck? I've never, not once. Not once. In fact, she broke my nose 2 weeks after. Sorry to deviate. I'm all over the place, but whatever. Still content, right? 2 weeks after I got my domestic, I was at my friend's house, my friend Preston. And he was still in high school. He's like a year younger than me. So he was like 17 and I was 18. So he's at his house, and it was actually the night he lost his virginity, and he fucked this girl. I forget what her name was, Kelly, I think. And like, so we're sitting at this, I'm at his mom's house, and I'm there with my girlfriend, and we all took Xanax the night before. Now, apparently I did heroin too in a period where I wasn't supposed to be, because I left the spoon with the carbon burn on the bottom of it, and like, heroin residue, and like a shriveled up cotton that looked like a rat turd or something. And she found it. She's like, what? Like in the morning, and I was blacked out on Xanax. I remember my friend was like, I'm having sex for the first time and it's wonderful, and I'm just like, I'm tired, passed out. But I guess I did heroin somewhere in that time. Anyway, I got caught, and she's like, oh my god, what the fuck, you relapsed. And she got we started arguing, and she was chasing me around the house, throwing shit at me. She was like literally taking knives out of a knife box and like chucking them at me. It was like some really gnarly shit. It was like being in a kung fu movie or something. It was crazy. Like knives were like twirling at me. I was like, what the fuck? And I tried to get away from her. She picks up a landline, like a cordless like one of those big phones, and like, I'm like, please calm down. I don't realize she has it behind her back, and she's like, okay, I'll be cool. And I'm like, all right, thanks. And she just goes bam and hits me with the phone. My nose just breaks. I'm like, ah. And right when that happened, this girl, I think her name was Kelly, the one that my friend had sex with, she's like, enough's enough, I'm calling the cops. And the cops get there, and what do you think happens? I get cuffed, right? And I'm just like, nah, what the fuck? I didn't do anything. I have a broken nose. She had not one mark on her. But my friend and the girl were like, hey, yeah, he didn't do anything. He was just running around, and she was like throwing knives at him, and then she threw the phone at his face and broke his nose. So they uncuff me and they arrest her. So the second time, she goes to jail, and the next day the case gets thrown out. But for what I did when I tried to get the crack pipe off of her, because I guess because I'm a man, and like, look, dude, if you hit a woman, you better fucking believe you deserve to be in jail. But in that same token, women shouldn't be hitting men either. You should. I mean, how can you? I love you, baby. And then you crack them in the face, break their nose with the phone. That's not love. That's some weirdo shit. I've never hit Karina ever. I've spit on her. She fucking hates that. She's like, that's worse than hitting. I'm like, it's not illegal, even though it is. It's like an assault. But like, then I'll spit on her, and then she'll like be like, ah, and she'll like spit on me back, and then it's just this like weird spitting war. We both have like our hands behind our back, and we're just like, it's like a duel. I'm like, and she's like, and that really happens. So anyway, I was on probation, and I had a warrant because I was dealing with that guy, Marcel Myers. Now he's the guy that would be like, Leone, have you ever let a minority fuck your wife while you watched in the closet? I can't say that I have, Marcel. Then you do not know suffering, my friend. I'm like, I guess not. I'm only 18, man. I haven't been there yet. Now I'm like in some closet watching some Southsiders bukkake a chick. But she wasn't my chick, And so Marcel Myers would always give me these weekends in jail. He'd be like, Leone, can you test for me? I'd be like, okay. Psst. And it's hard to pee on heroin, so it would always take me forever. Me, holding my dick with, my little dick with my thumb and my index finger. And I'd be like, is that good enough for you, Marcel? He'd be like, Mr. Leone, heroin, amphetamine, cocaine, what are you? You think you Christian Slater? I'm like, dude, look, man, look. I'm an addict. I need rehabilitation. Send me to rehab. He'd be like, no, Mr. Leone, no. You go do weekend. And then I'd have to go in on a Friday, and I'd get released on a Monday. But the thing is that I always bring drugs. So I was like really popular in jail. I'd come in right. I'd come in packing. I mean, just because I like sticking shit up my butt, you know what I mean? But anyway, what would happen with that is you would get weekends. I probably did like 10 of those, you know? But then they start recommending 30 days. I could do 30 days in county. Then 60 days. Then 90 days. Then 180 days. And I was at the 180 day. Like, that was my next violation. I went to go see Marcel, and he's like, Mr. Leone. I'm like, fuck that. I'm out of here. And I took off. So now I was on, not only was I, evading arrest because I was a fugitive with a warrant, now I had Nazi lowriders after me. And then on top of that, the only spot that I really could go, Pablo or Bucati, whatever her name is, Ariella, who got bukaki'd. Like, that was fucked up. And Pablo didn't want me there because I brought heat. Why? I couldn't go there either. And then my parents won't let me there because I had a warrant. So I was really in a bad situation. And, I just knew that eventually I'd run into some real issues with the Southsider and the white girl that was like getting gang fucked for meth. So now I'm in a position where I'm homeless again. Now, around this time, I go downtown and, Sugar had been in jail, and now I'm hanging out with Karina, not my wife, the one that I was with when I had stabbed Ian, the pregnant stripper chick, Karina. And I want to say I left. See, I mean, guys, this was in like 2003 or 2004. It was a long fucking time ago. But I think what happened is after the Bukkake situation, I left and I went back downtown and I started hanging out with Karina. Yeah, that's correct. And right around that time, so now I'm hanging out with this hippie population. Street kids from Portland, guys that would be like, yeah, when I'm out of money, I just suck dudes' dicks in the back of cars. Are you down like that, fool? I'm like, nah, I'm cool, man. I'll just panhandle. I don't need my little $20 a day heroin habit can be maintained just by asking people for spare change. I was always really good at that. I'd go up to people and be like, hey, I'm from Tucson. Took my big brother's car for the weekend. Lost my wallet. He's so mad at me. You think you have like $5 or $10? Now, typical panhandlers don't ask for $5 or $10, so they get like 40 or 50 cents. You have to ask for $5 or $10 and see what happens. And you have to have a gas can. That's what differentiates you. I don't talk like that. That's what differentiates you from the other panhandlers, because they're not willing to put a $5 investment into getting a gas can. Once in a while, I'll be at the gas station. I'll see someone with a gas can, and I respect the hustle. I'll give those guys $20 sometimes, and I'll just tell them straight up, like, hey, homeboy, I see you. I see what you're doing, and I like it. I respect the hustle. Here you go. And then, Karina, my wife, always goes, well, why do you give people that are scamming you money? I'm like, because I remember what that was like. That $20 just made that dude the day. If I can do that for $20, it's worth more than what that $20 can do for me personally, And she doesn't look at it that way. She's like, fuck that. And I'm not talking about it's like the last $20. I mean, I have to have money to be able to give it, but But anyway, so during that time, we were doing a lot of heroin, and Karina would do she did meth. This is not my wife. This is different Karina. She did crystal meth, and she did heroin. She's pregnant. And something that we did quite a bit was we did LSD together. I did that a lot with the street kids, because back then, I think a hit of blotter acid was like $5 or $6. It's cheap. Like nowadays, they're like $10 a hit. Back in the day, though, it's like $5 or $6. And it was like, they had like Bart Simpson or the dancing condoms, Yodas, the George Bush blotter, all that stuff, the W blotter. And I always had a good plug on acid at that time when I was on the street. And then it was only a couple years later is when, I became a drug dealer and was getting vials of it. And in the beginning of that, I couldn't even find it. But it's weird. Acid availability went down by like 90%, I think the DEA said, when they found an underground missile asylum in Kansas in I want to say 2001. And that's where the hippie mafia was living. They were making DMT. They were synthesizing DMT. They were making MDMA, MDA, and LSD, copious amounts. On the indictment, it said they were making enough acid in this underground bunker to dose the entire world twice. And they were living down there with hookers, strippers, and having these insane psychedelic orgies. And then it all came apart. One of the hookers that would hang out with them told on him, and one of the guys got so paranoid that he cooperated against his partner. Now, I was in Victorville with one of those guys, so I got the inside scoop on that whole thing. But if you remember, there was a period in the early 2000s where acid was everywhere. It was omnipresent, and just vanished. Just vanished. You couldn't get it anymore. There was a period where acid just disappeared. It was right around this time, but it hadn't happened yet. So LSD was still very big. And we would go down to the skate park and we would take acid and we would just all lay there. This is at night where no one's there. We would just lay in the bowl or on the half pipe, and all of us would just lay there and just trip on acid and look at the stars. And it was actually a really good time. And I remember some China white heroin hit the street during that time, and I was doing that a lot. And what ended up happening is I met Paul Harper, my friend that I'm doing the Narcan thing, and I went over it on the Paul video, but just to give you the cliff notes, basically I was living downtown, sleeping at the beach, and funny stuff would happen, Karina and I would we'd fuck by the beach, and then somebody would take our clothes, so we'd just be butt naked running around the skate park. People thought it was hilarious, and it was pretty funny in retrospect, but at the time I'd be really mad about it. And we'd sleep at the beach in tents, sometimes motel rooms. It just depended on how much money we came up that day. And then I met Paul, and I met him. I was kind of just sitting in the square, the spot where we all congregated, all the homeless in Santa Barbara. And he came up to me and asked me if I wanted to buy Tramadol, and Tramadol is bunk, it's the non-tongue kiss of sex, just that kind of shit. The escort kiss, bullshit kiss. When I have sex, I like to make out. For any of you dudes that are wondering. But weed makes me say funny stuff. So he tried to sell me Tramadol. He was trying to sell everybody Tramadol. And I was like, I think I was like, fuck it doesn't do anything. I'm like, who cares? I want all drugs. And me and him started chopping it up. He looked like Trent Reznor. He had dyed black hair. And this is how he looked like Trent Reznor in the 90s. So he had this stringy black hair. He'd wear flannels, baggy jeans, like a straight degenerate scumbag. And me and him just, became friends instantly, because I was a degenerate scumbag too. And he was telling me his story about how he had been homeless for a while, and he started dating this girl named Stacy. And Stacy kind of took him in, and they were making money by buying prescription drugs online, because you could do that back then. You could buy Xanax bars, you could buy fucking oxycodone, you could buy Percocets, you could buy Darvocets, all that shit, And I'm not a big pill guy. I don't even know, I can't get into the specifics of it, because I was never really into pills, but he was asking me if I was homeless. I was like, yeah, I am. I kind of told him my background, that, I was kind of voluntarily homeless. My parents wanted me to go to treatment. I wasn't with it. I was over it. And he really had sympathy for me. And he's like, hey, sympathy, or maybe he just wanted drugs. He's like, look, we just moved here from Monterey. If you can get me cocaine and heroin on a regular basis, we have a garage that you can live in. So I ended up moving into his place with Karina, and right around that time I got some weird STD. I forget what it was. It was some sort of ringworm that only affects your scrotum or something. It was fucking nasty. I remember I was like embarrassed to show the doctor. I was like, what is this? He's like, oh my God. You had to get in some like some medical encyclopedia and be like, holy shit. You can only get that on, communes in, South Siberia or whatever he said. Jesus, this is a rare one. You must have fucked some whore. I was like, man, I'll say. But yeah, that did happen. And so we end up moving in with him, me more so than Karina. I don't remember what happened to her, but she left. And right away, I wasn't well liked at this house. People, the first night that I was there with her, she was pregnant, and they had ordered a pizza. It was like him, Stacy, and then they had a lesbian roommate named Crash. Now, listen, I like lesbians. I don't look at them, and I don't look at who somebody fucks. I don't base my opinion on stuff like that. It's not like, I have nothing against lesbians. In fact, anyway, I'm pro-lesbian, let's just say that. Yeah, okay, so they ordered a pizza. So Crash, Stacy, Paul ordered a pizza, and Karina ate it all because she was pregnant. I mean, she ate like 8 pieces, and there were probably like 10 pieces, whatever it was. And they were just so mad. They're like, you guys need to contribute. I was like, I have tramadol. They're like, shut up. I was like, all right. So like, I didn't make a good impression the first night that I was there. And then, slowly around that time, I just started making more and more mistakes. I mean, I'd leave like a needle, Crash didn't use, and I'd leave like a syringe full of crystal meth in the bathroom that I was saving for later, and she'd roust us, which roust, I don't know if that's verbiage you guys use everywhere, but that's like, get in trouble. And so Karina ended up leaving, and Paul and I became pretty close during that time. At one point, Paul locked himself in the bathroom and, had taken an entire bottle of Xanax or something and was threatening to kill himself over his girlfriend. And I had to break the door down, and I had to like hold him down and call 911. And then while he was in the hospital, his girlfriend kind of like was hitting on me, and I told him, and he's like, fuck you, you're full. And I was like, dude, I'm like telling you what's up. Like, she was watching a Manson documentary upstairs, and she's like, hey, why don't you get in bed and watch this with me? And I mean, I don't know. I don't know what planet you're from, but to me that means, hey, let's watch a movie together if you're a guy and a girl. And that means like, I'm pretty much saying, come up to my room and fuck me, and not necessarily, I mean, that's kind of like a weird rapist perspective, but usually it's in the tone and how they say it. I mean, come on, we're adults. You know when someone's sending signals like that, and she was, and I found it very inappropriate, and I told him, because I'm not, this dude was like going out of his way for me, and him not believing me about that really set off a bad chain reaction of events. Right around that time, and he had showed me his underground film Kill Horse, which is on his channel. In fact, I'll put some links from what I think is the best selected content from Paul up on Patreon, and just links and stuff. But he was a very talented guy, and so around that time, after he got mad at me for saying that his girlfriend was a hoe, I was like, hey, by the way, years later, it all came out. And she was fucking a bunch of dudes I know in Santa Barbara. But he didn't want to believe me at the time. And Paul and I weren't even really good friends. Like, he became a fucking brother to me. But this is just in the beginning of our friendship, And he had asked me if I could get acid. Because, remember, during this time, I'm selling fake blotter to college kids. I'm going up and down State Street in Santa Barbara, which is like the downtown commercial strip where all the bars and restaurants and, shopping is. And I just go up to people like, hey, what's up? I got some bomb ass L. Do you want to trip on some bomb ass L? And people be like, oh my God, what is that? Oh, it's acid. It's fucking lovely. Here you go. And I would just come up on people. So he saw me scamming people. He didn't know that it was a scam. I mean, I didn't tell him. It's like the magician doesn't show his tricks. I'm like, hey, let me show you how I'm fucking over people right now. Why would you do that? And So Paul thought that I really had plugs on, a lot of acid. Now, I was doing a lot of acid back then, like I said, but I couldn't get quantity. I didn't know where to get vials of it and shit. So he said that his friend from Northern California wanted to come by and get a few vials, because this is right when the acid drought had started. Now think about this logically. Now, Northern California is the epicenter of LSD. That's where the hippie mafia lives. And that's a real thing. That's where the Rainbow family lives. They all live in the Pacific Northwest, San Francisco, Northern California, Seattle, Portland. It's a very specific part of the country. And I would learn that later as I started getting involved with selling pretty large amounts of those kind of drugs. I mean, when you start fucking with people that are getting crystals of LSD, shit that's worth like $18,000, a lot of people are like, unplugged. But dude, until you see a quarter pound of crystal LSD, grams make 1,000 vials, that's crazy shit. Think about that. A quarter pound of that. Those people are like on some real, like, serious big boy shit. And but back then I didn't know those kind of people. So I told him, of course I can get that. We were already beefing because he didn't believe me about his girl. He thought that I was full of shit. So like his attitude of me shifted very, very dramatically at that point. I think probably the same way I would be. It was an insecurity thing. But so his friend comes down. They ended up having this house party. Now he wanted 3 vials, and I think I said they were $1,000 a piece, which is incredibly expensive for acid. That might not be the exact amount of what I charge, but it was something along those lines. And so this guy came down, and I just gave him breath mint vials that you can buy at the liquor store for $1. Got 3 of them. I took the label off, and I filled it with rubbing alcohol so that it wouldn't freeze, in the freezer. Or maybe it was vodka or something, whatever it was. And I took the label off, and then I put it in a bag, and I taped it up, these 3 vials. And then I put aluminum foil over the bag. It really looked legit. It looked like drugs. And he came down, he gave me the money. We had this house party. The next day I took off. I took off because I didn't want to get caught. And I had already been like, you know what? This guy's going to take his girl's word over mine when it comes down to something like that. Why would you tell somebody that? Like, hey, like your girl was, did she directly be like, hey, whip your dick out, I want to suck it? Nothing like that. But trust me, it was like that, and I wasn't cool with it. This guy was giving me blind faith, generosity and I've always been against I've always been against being a homewrecker. Even if you don't have kids, like, that's one principle. No matter how scummy I got, there's 2 principles really. I've never been a snitch, ever. Never. You'll never find any paperwork on me that I've put someone in jail because I haven't. Now, honestly, I thought that was something, that just most people did. Now, it's something to be proud of. Trust me, a lot of people tell. When you start talking about prison terms and going away for years, dude, I go do prison terms, but you see a lot of guys get a bunch of felonies and don't. There's something very suspect about that to me. And when I got extradited on this last case from Victorville, Federal Correctional Institute, Victorville 1, which I was at the first part of my last term, and then I got extradited to the state. Before I went to Wasco, I went to Santa Barbara County Jail. The Narcotics Task Force detectives, 2 of them, picked me up in a marked car. So it was, it was a police car. They picked me up, and they didn't talk to me for like half the trip. But then I was thinking, I was sitting in the back, and I'm like, man, this is a pretty unique opportunity to try to like get some intel off these guys and like figure out like what the real deal is. So we started chopping it up. I'm like, hey, can I ask you guys a question? I've always wanted to ask detectives. They go, sure, pal. What you like to know? I'm like, hey, what's the percentage of people that actually snitch, would you say? 85%? What do you think? And they're like, oh no, no. High 90s. I said, what do you mean? He said, dude, it's probably 2 or 3% of people in an entire year that don't cooperate, dry snitch, like get arrested and be like, oh, all right, let me tell you, this is my drug dealer. This is where my drug dealer lives. This is what they, and then you start making shit up. Oh, and he has laser guns, and oh, he has uranium for sure. And they started telling me about it. So it's like I mean, dude, don't trust people. You know, that's why I would never be a drug dealer anymore, because there's no loyalty in that world. But aside from snitching, I have never, not once in my entire life, I've never fucked somebody's girlfriend, while they were with them. You know, and the one time that girl Rachel from the Pimping and Pandering story, that guy ended up being a piece of shit. You know, he ended up being a snitch. So it's like, I had no loyalty to him because he had no loyalty to us and our friends. So I burned Paul. I think it was for like $2 or $3 grand. Burned his friend. He freaked out. And, you know, after they found out, and it was a big deal. And we're leading up to how I actually got to Florida. But I think that it's important in this series to really kind of go over the events that led up to it, because Florida was a wild experience. So, and there's tons of stuff that happened leading up to Florida, being in Florida, and then being incarcerated in Florida, that I think you guys would find pretty interesting. They make up good stories. They're stories I've told other people, and people like them. So some of this material is going to be you know, recycled from other stories, but it'll start getting into just straight up new stuff, like the Bukkake bitch. I love you guys. I really do. I love you guys. Patreon family. You guys are a different caliber of folk. I've never said that in my fucking life. You guys are just a much better breed of people. And I really appreciate you guys. You don't have to like, comment, or subscribe shit on here, because it just stays on here. Nobody will see it except for you guys. But I do appreciate you. Palabra.